is 34% in ABC company, it's 34% of what they have in stocks invested in stocks and calls, puts, whatever they've got. It's 34% of that number, not including cash. Amazingly, the great flaw in all this analysis is they don't include cash as an investment. And of course, it is an investment, but they don't include it. And as a result, right now, although Burry has $639 million, our website shows that he has a portfolio value of $135 million.
Oh, okay, because the SEC filings don't show any percentages.
We do them ourselves because it's super important that we understand what percentage of the portfolio is invested in certain things, right? I mean, it's one thing to have somebody have 1% of the portfolio in a stock. It's another thing entirely if they've got 15% in it.
Yeah, totally.
Like the level of commitment is hugely different.
It's a second level calculation, though.
So our website is showing that Burry has a portfolio of $135 million. We know he's got a portfolio of $639 million. What that means is that if we exclude the puts and calls, all the options that we're going to talk about in a minute, that Burry is sitting on a gigantic pile of cash, it appears, from where we're sitting, right? In other words, if his portfolio is $639 million, he has $135 million invested in stocks, then there's $500 million that he doesn't have anywhere, at least as far as our website is concerned. So that's an error, and we need to get better at showing that, number one. And number two, it'd be a really big error if you looked at $135 million and you assumed that, oh yeah, the guy has, 8.5% of his money invested in core civic. Well, no, he doesn't have 8.5% of his money invested in core civic at all, not even remotely close. If he's got 8% of 135 million invested in core civic. You following me here?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a gigantic difference. I mean, he's got like $7 or $8 million in core civic, 7 or 8 million, as opposed to what would be 8% of 600 million to be, $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
Just gigantically different.
So you're saying
situation.
that the values themselves are only really understandable by putting together what percentage of that portfolio it really is. Because for a different example, let's say something's worth $8 million at Berkshire, it's nothing. It's like less than nothing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Berkshire is a great example. Buffett invests very rarely.
Yeah, true.
And when he does, he invests billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, he's got Ted and Todd, who are handling like $10 billion each. And they're often investing, relatively small amounts. It would be rounding errors at Berkshire.
Yeah.
They'd be just rounding errors. You wouldn't even consider them just Buffett putting a toe in the water, nothing committed.
I mean, they don't say that those are their investments. That's an assumption, but I think it's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look at Apple. One of those guys started into Apple back when it was at 95 or 100 pre-split, and then talked to Warren about it, and he got excited about the idea that Apple is no longer a technology company. It's no longer all about creative destruction. It's actually, I think Warren said that when he realized that a friend of his who had a private jet said he'd let go of the private jet before he'd let go of his iPhone, that there was something going on here, right?
That's
so
cute.
Sort of back to Burry. So we've got some interesting stuff here. When we go and look this up, apart from, or going out to the SEC, we see something else. We see that at Whale Wisdom, for example, they're showing that Burry's portfolio is actually almost $1.4 billion, not $639 million. It's he has $1.4 billion invested, is the way they're saying it here. And this is also completely screwed up.
Yeah, that's not right. It's because they have a computer doing that, and it must have included the option filings.
It does. And here's the crazy thing. When you do an option filing, what they do, what you just said, they take the value of the underlying as an obligation for you, whether you're obligated or whether you have a right. Right? These are the two sides of any options trade. One side is when you sell an option, you're now obligated to do something. And when you buy an option, you have a right to do something. Well, the SEC doesn't seem to distinguish between the two at all. It's just, let's look at the underlying stock and determine the total amount of the investment based on the shares of stock times the underlying price. Mm-hmm. And you end up with these massive numbers that aren't real, right? They're especially not real because the put options and the call options do different things depending on whether you buy them or sell them. And they do very different things between each other. So a put is very different than a call, and a sold put or a short put is very different than a long put. I mean, I don't know if we want to get in the weeds here, but they're very, very different than just saying, the underlying stock shares are what really count here.
Right.
So let me give an example.
But I don't think that they would show on here a sold put or a sold call. I think they would only show ones that have been bought and therefore are owned by the fund.
No. They're not going to distinguish. They're not going to distinguish when you push the sold button, when you push sell, and you have to file that you sold something, whether you owned it or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So now I could be wrong, but and we can check it out.
That's something I should look up. Yeah.
Yeah. But when they say that the top buys for Burry in Q1, the number one top buy was Tesla.
Right.
he not only didn't buy Tesla, which would indicate he's really excited about Tesla, right?
Which was my initial thought upon seeing this, like 100% wrong.
It's a put option that he bought. Mm-hmm. And a put option.
Or sold, if what we're saying is that maybe this means sold as well.
Well, there's very unlikely that if he sold it, it would have said sell.
Yeah, maybe.
So when it says buy, he's buying a put option. And the difference between buying a put option and selling a put option are night and day. It's like the difference between buying a stock and selling a stock in the sense that one is saying one thing and the other is saying the exact opposite, right? So when you buy a put option, what you've done when you buy any option is you've bought a right for something. You've got a right. Okay, so he bought a right on Tesla. And when he bought a put option, his right is to sell Tesla at a set price over some period of time. Like he's got a certain number of days. It might be, 700 days. It might be 30 days. I don't know how many days this thing is lasting, but he has a right to sell Tesla. So imagine if you wanted to insure a position that made money so far. One of the ways you could do it is you can marry a put option to your stock and sell, or rather buy a put option, in which case if the stock price goes down, you will be able to force someone to buy that stock from you at that higher price, whatever that price is that you set. So it becomes an insurance policy to get out, right? It's a way of saying, I want to be insured for the next year that I can get out of this company and retain my profits.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to pay for that, and sometimes it makes sense, and a lot of times it doesn't. Where options get used mostly is in gambling. And my guess here is that I don't even have to guess.
It's not a guess because we know that he doesn't own underlying Tesla. Yeah,
exactly. So if he doesn't own the underlying Tesla and he bought a Tesla put, then he is spending money with a bet that Tesla is going to go down like a brick. You guys, if you enjoyed this video and you feel it was valuable in teaching you more about how to invest, hit the like button and please share the video with your friends. And if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the button on the screen. We got a free gift for you. Thanks again for watching.